lack of check and balance, potential for the overlooked cost and lack of check and balance and possible identity software and the contract design and the user separation of the design review and the lack of check and design review and the contract supervision. Review and supervision disappear and review of supervision review and supervision disappear. Contracts constant supervision disappears in the contract design and build. Optional life cycle and performance depend on the owner's specific purpose and potentials for the overlooked cost if the project milestones are not carefully defined. The life cycle cost and scope change are overlooked. The project milestones are not clearly defined. The life cycle cost and the scope changes are easily overlooked. Yeah. If the project milestones are not carefully and defined, the life cycle cost and the if the project milestones are not carefully defined, then the project life cycle cost and project life cycle cost and the scope changes are overlooked and scope changes are overlooked. The milestones are not carefully defined. And project milestones carefully not defined and get design review and the customer supervision disappears and loss of check and balance is the contractor design and build the user and design review and the customer supervision disappear. Milestones are not clearly defined and life cycle cost and scope changes and is overly overlooked and high risk for the contractor. Contractor accept the significant coordinations and design and it allows them to act more efficiently to lower their own construction cost. And law of control the owner involved high cost on the owner involvement, lack of check and balance and lack of check and balance, potential overlooked cost piles. Uh, uh, Accept the facts. Contractor accepts significant coordination in design risks and accept the significant coordination in design risks, allowing this them to act more effectively and to lower their own construction cost and um, mm, advantage and single solar responsibility, point of responsibility, price and time certainty, allocation of the risks to the contractor, operations readiness and efficiency, timelineess and the cost control and follow the free phase ensuring tender robust and faster in implementations, making any performance focus on uh, PPP are a long-term contractual agreement and long-term contractual agreement between the public agency and the private entity who allows the greater and private participation in the delivery of the project or any private partner to may finance and build, plan or execution. Long-term contractual agreement between the public agency and the private agency which allows the greater private and which allows for the greater private participation in the which allows for the private participation in the delivery of the project or the private partner and which allows the private partner and for the delivery of the project or the private partner and they can finance and build a plan or execution. It involves collaborations between the government agency and the private sector company which can be used to finance, build, operate and projects and government and private project and can finance, build and operate the project. Collaborations between the long-term contracts like collaborations between the government and legally binding contract between the government and private business organizations to provide the a legally binding contract between the government and the private business organizations to provide the public access and a legally binding contract between the government and private business organization. Legally binding contract between a long-term contractual agreement or legally binding and get a contract नहीं get long-term contractual agreement and long-term legally binding government and private business organization to provide public assist and public service for the benefit of the provide the public assist and public service for the benefit of the general public. Need of the public private partnerships in the do you think PV is the boss network section need of the কি কে FEOPCDPN. FEOPCDPN you get a financial capability and फाइनेन्सियल क्यापेबिलिटी अनि इन्जिनियरिङ अनि एक्सपर्टिज अनि स्किल एक्सचेन्ज अनि फाइनेन्सियल एन्ड क्यापेबिलिटी एक्सपर्टिज अनि स्किल एक्सचेन्ज अनि एफइई अनि के अरे स्किल एक्सचेन्ज अनि फाइनेन्सियल क्यापेबिलिटी एक्सपर्टिज अनि स्किल एक्सचेन्ज अनि त्यसपछि इफिसियन्सी एन्ड फास्टर इम्प्लिमेन्टेसन अनि financial capability, expertise and skill exchange, financial capability, expertise and skill exchange, and efficiency and the faster implementations. Yeah, fee and financial capability, expertise and skill exchange, and efficiency and the faster implementations, efficiency and the faster implementations, and optimum risk allocations and अनि के अरे पी भनेको चाहिँ प्रुभन सक्सेस इन हाइयर पावर अनि अप्टिमम रिस्क एलोकेसन्स प्रुभन सक्सेस इन हाइड्रो पावर सेक्टर्स अनि के अरे प्रुभन सक्सेस इन हाइड्रो पावर सेक्टर अप्टिमम रिस्क एलोकेसन्स अनि फाइनेन्सियल स्टेबिलिटी अनि क्यापेबिलिटी अनि के अरे फाइनेन्सियल क्यापेबिलिटी एक्सपर्टिज एन्ड द स्किल एक्सचेन्ज अनि efficiency and the negative faster implementation efficiency and the faster implementation expertise and skill excellence efficiency faster implementation optimum risk allocations proven success in the hydropower sectors and competitiveness and proven sector and hydropower sector OPC and this was DP and D भनेको diversification of the economy and diversification of the P भनेको चाहिँ promote sector private sector growth and need any FE, OBCDB, and FE, OBCDB, FE, OBCDB, and financial capability, and even engineering expertise and expertise and the skill exchange, and this was the efficiency and faster implementation, efficiency and skill exchange, and then expertise and skill exchange, efficiency and the faster implementations, and your optimum risk allocations and proven success hydropower and sectors competitiveness and diversifying of the economy and private sector growth and private sector growth and financial capability and the government alone cannot always have the full resources to access all the infrastructure needs private helps to and private sector investments to bridging the fund gap of the hydropower capital and get a spa project like that and get your 30% debit is 70% and get a debt equity ratio and with you from with the fund from the employee provident fund and CDC and private sector and get also to invest the and get project for bridging a funding gap and get for the high capital cost of the projects and expertise skills and skill and expertise and the skill exchange and specialized technical skills and the management expertise between the private and public sector are exchange for the development of the projects and efficiency and the faster implementations on PPP are designed to accelerate the provision of the infrastructure, ensuring the faster project implementations and Chilima hydropower completed on despite the Niger resources shortage. And Chilima hydropower example and efficiency and expertise, faster implementation PPP are designed to accelerate the implementations and provision of the infrastructure and accelerate the development of the construction of the infrastructure and ensure the faster project implementation, ensure the implementation constructions and then implementations and fastest optimum risk allocations and the large power sector involve the complex risks and PPP allows these risks to be shared and allocate any party be stable to manage them optimum risk allocations between the private and public sector risks are allocated and by sharing the financial technical expertise and competitive and proven sector and widely used and approximately 104 or 400 kilovolt of kilometer transmission line between the India and China अनि के अरे नेपाल and India अनि अप्पर तामाकोसी अनि के अरे वेस्ट चाहिँ 750 मेगावाट अनि अप्पर अरुण अनि 769 अनि 679 अनि अप्पर अरुण अनि त्यसपछि 750 अनि वेस्ट चाहिँ कम्पिटेटिभनेस यु क्यान सेलेक्ट अ कम्पिटेटिभ बिडर एज अनि पार्टनर्स फर द भेरियस प्रोजेक्ट अर्को चाहिँ diversifying of the economy and government can use fund to take out the project challenging project private sector growth more investment more job more taxation contributes to regional development this was the project the work breakdown structures and project identification and survey license project identification and survey license sorry, project identification survey license and this was the design feasibility study project identification and survey license and design and work breakdown structure and Breaks study and project identification and survey license and त्यसपछि feasibility study and environmental analysis and feasibility analysis study and the environmental assessments and um, grid connection and PPA and financial closures and grid connections and PPA financials closure, project identification and survey license, project identification and survey license, feasibility study and the environmental assessments, project identification, survey license, feasibility study and survey license and feasibility analysis and the environmental assessment and grid connections and PPA and this is financials closures and prepare the DPR and cost estimates and conclude the financials closure agreement. This was design and detailed design and tendering and के गरे अनि डिटेल डिजाइन एन्ड सुरु प्रोजेक्ट आइडेन्टिफिकेसन्स एन्ड अनि सर्वे लाइसेन्स प्रोजेक्ट आइडेन्टिफिकेसन सर्वे लाइसेन्स अनि के अरे फिजिबिलिटी स्टडी एन्ड इन्भाइरोमेन्टल असेसमेन्ट्स फिजिबिलिटी एनालाइसिस इन्भाइरोमेन्टल असेसमेन्ट्स अनि ग्रिड कनेक्सन्स एन्ड द पिपिए फाइनेन्सियल क्लोजर डिटेल डिजाइन एन्ड टेन्डरिङ अनि सिभिल वर्क मेकानिकल वर्क अनि फाइनेन्सियल क्लोजर अनि जेनेरेसन्स लाइसेन्स लिने अनि सिभिल वर्क अनि मेकानिकल इलेक्ट्रोमेकानिकल वर्क अनि त्यसपछि यो ट्रान्समिसन्स लाइन एन्ड अनि के अरे ग्रिड कनेक्सन्स अब त्यसपछि चाहिँ यो मोनिटरिङ एन्ड टेस्टिङ कमिसनिङ एन्ड अपरेसनल्स अनि टेस्टिङ कमिसनिङ एन्ड अपरेसनल्स अनि ग्रिड लाइन एन्ड ट्रान्समिसन्स लाइन अनि इलेक्ट्रोमेकानिकल वर्क अनि के अरे अपरेसन एन्ड मेन्टेनेन्स फेज टेस्टिङ टेस्टिङ कमिसनिङ एन्ड अनि कमर्सियल अपरेसन डेट अनि project identifications and any survey license and reconnaissance study and pre-feasibility study submissions of the survey license to the obtain and feasibility topography त्यो भइहाल्यो अनि feasibility assessment study preparations EII public hearing अनि के अरे land acquisitions compensations and public hearing and approval of the EII अनि grid approval and grid apply for the grid connection agreement with the NEA and sign grid agreement connections and त्यसपछि assign tariff and approval by the ERC tariff approval by the ERC and get tariff approval by the ERC and PPA agreement and sign with the PPA with any and tariff approval by the ARC and grid connections and agreement and with any and sign grid connections generations license and generation त्यही त एउटा छुट्टा भनेपछि यहाँ फाइनेन्सियल क्लोज एन्ड भन्छ generation license, your grid connections and the PPA with any tariff fixations. And this process generation submission of the applications of the feasibility study or with the EIA approval and get grid connections PPA obtain the generations license and the grid connections PPA when you report submit गर्ने generation license अनि financials closure financials closures मा चाहिँ के अरे DPR अनि cost estimates DPR bankable DPR and the cost estimates financials and के अरे closures agreement and detailed design and tendering approval of the design consultant and detailed design of the civil engineering and mechanical equipment tender document preparations tender bid evaluations and contract award and civil works and site preparation access site road dewatering and foundation preparations treatment and wear intake and the dry and wet commissioning testing commissioning and the commercials operations did testing commissioning and the commissioning and commercial operation did dry tests and dry and wet commissioning test and dry and wet commissioning test performance test dry and wet commissioning test and performance test final handover and the commercials operations did and final handover and commercials operations did operation and the maintenance phase and operation and maintenance phase regular operation and maintenance reporting to the NEA regulatory authorities. How do you plan and schedule the hydropower in the CPM? And CPM is network-based technique, scheduling technique, and for the planning and controlling of the complex project like the hydropower. With the network scheduling techniques and network-based scheduling techniques for planning and scheduling, controlling of the large complex hydropower projects and complex projects for any planning and controlling of the large hydropower complex projects like that. Network-based scheduling technique used for the planning and controlling of the large complex projects like the hydropower project. It involves identifying all the activities, their dependency, independency, and durations to find the longest path that determine the total durations. And identifying all the activities, identify all activities and independencies and their interdependency among the activities, and the duration to find, and the durations to find the longest path, and determine their activities, the relations between their activities and the durations to complete the activities of the longest path and critical path, which determine the project total durations, and durations to find the longest path, that's critical path, and areas to find the activities, and identify all activities and determine the independency and among the between the activities, and find the longest path, and for the critical that is durations to find the longest path, that is any critical path to find the total project durations, planning and planning of the scheduling of the procedures. CPM planning, and this was a listing all activities, and this was a determine the dependencies, and a listing all activities determine dependency row, listing all activity determine dependency, and this was a draw the network diagram and estimation the durations, estimate activity durations, determine the activities, and a list all activities, determine the dependencies between the activities, determine the dependency, that is and establish the logical sequence and the relationship between the activities, and establish the logical list all activities, determine the dependency of the activities, and this was draw the network diagram, establish all activity durations, and time, and perform the backward and forward pass, and get and evaluate all, and get estimate the activity duration, estimate activity duration, assign the realistic time duration, estimate the activity durations and activity durations, and this procedure and calculate the forward and backward pass, and perform the forward and backward pass to calculate the float, and get identify critical path, and update the network regularly. CPM planning है, then you get a list all activities and determine dependency, and determine dependency, and this way draw network diagram, and I know, and draw network diagram, and draw network diagram, establish the and establish and you get activity duration, and establish activity durations, and your cause perform and backward and forward pass, and determine the activity duration, calculate backward and forward pass the specification, and determine the critical activities, and will path and monitor, and use update monitor, and CPM planning here के छ भन्दाखेरि चाहिँ एउटा आइडेन्टिफाई दि अनि एक्टिभिटिज लिस्ट अल एक्टिभिटिज अनि त्यस डिटरमाइन द डिपेन्डेन्सिज, अनि डिटरमाइन डिपेन्डेन्सिज, अनि त्यसपछि ड्र द नेटवर्क डायग्राम, अनि हाय 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 डिपेन्डेन्सी, अनि ड्र द नेटवर्क डायग्राम, ड्र नेटवर्क एस्टाब्लिस एस्टिमेट द एक्टिभिटी ड्युरेसन छैन रहेछ कस्तो एस्टिमेट, ड्र डिपेन्डेन्सी इस्टाब्लिस, अनि list all activities and determine dependency, draw the network and establish all the duration of an activities, and you draw network diagram, calculate through the EST, and backward or forward passes, and identify the critical path, and you update network and monitor. Okay, list all activity, break down project into the detailed list of the activities, break down the project and get into the detailed list, and break down the all project into the detailed list of the activity, that is through the work breakdown structures, list all activities, and you get a break down the project into the detailed list of all activities, and you determine the project dependencies, establish the logical sequence and the relationships, either through the start to finish, finish to start, and get a start to finish to start, and start to start, finish to finish, finish to start, start to finish, and that is an powerhouse, and you get excavate the powerhouse must finish before the concreting of the powerhouse starts, and starting of the concreting powerhouse, and draw the network diagram, and create a flow charts, and get showing the activities and events in so draw the flow charts, and showing the activities and the events, activity in the array and events in node to visualize the workflow, and get त्यसपछि होइन सुरुमा estimate the activity duration, assign the realistic time durations for the activity based on the productivity of the work quantity, method, and the resources availability, because based on the determine the and get assign the realistic work times for the each activity based on the resources अनि के अरे productivity of the work quality अनि के अरे method of the work त्यसपछि चाहिँ अनि क्या draw the network diagram अनि create the flow charts अनि के अरे showing activities and events to visualize the workflow, perform the backward and forward pass to calculate the flow, identify the critical path, use it to main focus for the monitoring and corrective plan actions, update the network regularly with the actual progress to the plan progression. Calculation procedure and get backward or forward pass and this is total float, free float, independent interfering float and total float one is the maximum time float one is the free available time of an activity and types and total float and the maximum time by which the completion of an activity can be delayed without affecting the total project durations and free float one is the affect the preceding activities and affect the total independent float and affect the particular activity and total float independent float independent float and you get a total free float minus slack of the head event and slack of the tail event and slack of the tail event and your independent interfering float slack of the tail event and slack of the head event mass interfering float is slack of the head event and independent float and total float equal and free independent float equals to and free float minus slack of the tail event and affect the particular activities and that is excess time available if the preceding activity start as early as possible and the succeeding activities in the excess time available and forward pass भनेको चाहिँ calculate अनि EST र EFT for each activity by moving from the project starts to finish calculate forward pass and calculate the EST र EFT अनि by moving the activities from अनि के अरे start to finish अनि when the multiple activity merge into one event and then the largest EFT is taken and backward pass calculate the EST र LST र LFT for each activity by moving from the project starts to finish to starts when the multiple and activities brought from one event then the lowest LST is taken on smallest LST and float value total float and maximum time value free float on equals affect the particular activity affect preceding activities total float free float and get the maximum time by which the project durations can be delay activity can be delayed without affecting the starting of succeeding activities and particular preceding activities and affecting preceding activities without affecting the starting of the succeeding activities and you have to have the independent short and independent short critical path and longest path into CBM network and CBM attribute activities critical activities lying on the critical path is the critical activities and or is contained the zero float and in real project labor equipment material and the finance are often limited and real managing construction project with limited resources is a common challenge managing the constructions and projects with the limited resources is a common challenge resources constraints can include the shortage of the managing construction project the in construction project the management managing or constructions with the limited resources is a common challenge managing of the construction project with the limited managing of the construction project with the limited resources is a common challenge and the resources constraints can include the shortage of the skills level and the resources constraints include the managing constructions project with the limited resources is a common challenge. Resources constraints are include any skills and shortage of the skills, labor, and specific machinery and materials, or even fund and cost, material, equipment, or labor go and is limited. Is a resources constraint, and the project manager goal is to reallocate, and project manager's goal is to reallocate and schedule these scarce resources effectively to meet the project activities and Managers goal and is to reallocate and schedule these scarce resources effectively to meet the project activities, and reallocate and schedule these scarce resources to effectively meet the project activities. Two primary techniques: resources labeling, resources smoothing. Resource labeling is used when the demand of the resources exceeds to the available supplies in in the real life, after limited managing any construction project with the limited resources, the common challenges constraints can include the shortage of the skills, labor, and specific machinery, materials, or even fund. And the project manager goals is to reallocate and schedule these resources, reallocate and schedule the resources, and effectively to meet the project activities, and reallocate and is scheduling these, and reallocate. The project manager goal is to reallocate and schedule these activities and resources, reallocate and schedule this, and the project manager goal is to reallocate and schedule these scarce resources, and to effectively manage the activities, meet the project activities, effectively manage the project activities, and the reallocate and schedule these, and scarce resources to effectively manage and, effectively meet the project activities. And it can be done through the resources leveling and resources smoothing, and what happen under the resources constraint is starting of an activity may have to be delayed because an delay of an activity due to the requirement power or equipment being used elsewhere, non-critical activity become critical activity if the study is delayed beyond its slot. And more than one scarce resources may exist at same time. For example, and scarcity can also arise in the middle of the activity, and more than one scarce resources exist at the same time. For example, and what what the fuck, yeah, real. breakdown structure, resources breakdown structure. So to map the require available or require versus available resources and resources histograms and reveal the peak shortage early and your resources breakdown structure to map the require versus available resources and use the resources labeling and use the resources labeling to reschedule the activities of the and resources labeling and smoothing and technique used when a project deadline is fixed, but if you avoid the peaks and valleys in the resources uses the level of jumps in demand key to and reschedule the activities to the period when the required resources are available and reschedule the activities and to periods and reschedule the activities to the resources smoothing and reschedule the activities to the period when any required resources are available require and even if this changes the project completion date and smoothing and because when the resources are limited and not fixed, but the goal is to avoid the peaks and troughs and resources are limited and but not fixed and limited so but fixed sign and resources and the goal is to avoid peak and troughs in the resources uses and adjust activities with the existing floats and the goal is to avoid the peaks and troughs and getting the resources uses and avoid the peaks and troughs and resources smoothing and resources and labeling are this labeling is used when the demand for the resources exceed the available supply and to reschedule the activities of the period when the required resources are available and to reschedule the activities to the period and resources labeling and अब त्यो एक्टिभिटिज चाहिँ जुन बेला गर्ने जुन बेला चाहिँ अनि रिसोर्सेसहरू आउँछ इभन इफ दिस चेन्ज द प्रोजेक्ट अनि कम्प्लिसन्स डाटा अनि रिसोर्सेस लेभलिङ इज युज वेन द डिमान्ड फर द रिसोर्सेस एक्सिड द एभाइलेबल सरप्राइज अनि सप्लाई अनि रिसोर्सेस लेभलिङ इज युज वेन डिमान्ड एक्सेस अनि अब द resources exist available for involve rescheduling activity to ensure the resources and stage resources and resources uses never exceeds the set limit and resources uses and reschedule the activities and get a period when the required resources are available even if this ends the project completions date resources labeling and एउटा चाहिँ work breakdown structure resource breakdown structure to map the real with the available resources and real with the targeted with the available resources use the resources is smoothing and to shift and smoothing भनेको चाहिँ resources अनि when the resources are limited but not fixed but the goal is to avoid the trough and crest on the resources uses and adjust the activities with their existing float adjusting the activities and adjusting with the existing float to create more balanced and consistent demand for the resources without necessarily extending the project timeline resources smoothing भनेको चाहिँ अनि shift non-critical work within the available and shift non-critical work अनि within available float shift non-critical work within the available float to without changing the अनि shift non-critical activity to the अनि resources labeling भनेको चाहिँ अनि rescheduling the activities of the work and for the period when the resources are available यहाँ चाहिँ shift all non-critical work within the available float which अनि without अनि float अनि without shift any non-critical work within the available float without changing project durations and this split work package and scheduling and constant maintenance is increases the critical CPM to identify non-delayable stacks and यहाँ चाहिँ अनि के अरे एउटा वर्क ब्रेकडाउन स्ट्रक्चर्स लिस्ट अल द वर्क एन्ड रिसोर्सेस ब्रेकडाउन स्ट्रक्चर अनि आरबिएस र डब्लुबिएस टु म्याप द एभाइलेबल भर्सेस रिक्वायर अनि के रिसोर्सेस युज द सिपिएम अनि टु आइडेन्टिफाई एन्ड नन क्रिटिकल पाथ अनि smoothing and the adjust start and finish date of the non-critical activities so the resources demand stays within the limit and common heuristics include the prioritizing tasks to lead total slacks and software like the Microsoft project automates and much of this and mitigation strategy and prioritize and phasing अनि focus on the critical path for item first defer or paralyze and non-critical work versus and त्यसपछि optimize and design stage अनि EOT अनि extension of time may be negotiated delay or unavoidable अनि hold regular stakeholder meeting for catch up plan अनि regular stakeholder meeting for the catch up plan use just in time approaches extension of the अनि के अरे time may be negotiated if the delay are the unavoidable monitor casual utilization update then त्यसपछि ABA अनि के अरे अन analysis track the progress अनि के अरे against the resources used and track the progress of the project against the resources used so used as a monitoring tools and also अनि के अरे update अनि the schedules continuously and use continuously and your resources is moving to shift the non-critical and split the work package subcontract work hire temporary equipment or change construction method and split work PACKG work package and hire temporary worker or equipment and How does it create the work breakdown structure, resources breakdown structure to compare the आणि required versus available resources, use the resources labeling आणि resources labeling आणि to आणि reschedule the activities आणि resources labeling reschedule the activities that आणि reschedule the activities to the period when the resources are available आणि even if they change the project completion date resources is labeling भनेको चाहिँ reschedule the activities of the अनि reschedule the activities अनि to the period when the resources are available. अब रिसोर्सेस स्मुथिङ भनेको चाहिँ युज टु एलिमिनेट द पिक एन्ड ट्रफ्स इन द रिसोर्सेस युजेस अनि सिफ्ट द नन क्रिटिकल वर्क विदिन द एभाइलेबल फ्लोट विदाउट चेन्जिङ द सिफ्ट द नन क्रिटिकल वर्क विदिन द एभाइलेबल फ्लोट विदाउट चेन्जिङ द अनि प्रोजेक्ट कम्प्लिसन डेट अल्सो युज द सिपिएम टु आइडेन्टिफाई द नन डिलेबल टास्क and shift it to any and if it contain the float its resources can be diverted any if it contain the float its resources can if the its resources can be diverted and to the critical path and identify non-critical and get tasks and सिपिएमले चाहिँ आइडेन्टिफाई एउटा डब्लुबिएस त्यो भयो होला अनि अर्को रिसोर्सेस लेबलिङ लेबलिङ भनेको सिफ्ट द प्रोग्रेस अनि एक्टिभिटिज टु द पिरियड वेन दे अनि रिसोर्स स्मुथिङ भनेको चाहिँ फ्लोट अनि यो सिफ्ट द नन क्रिटिकल वर्क विदिन द एभाइलेबल फ्लोट अनि सिफ्ट द नन क्रिटिकल वर्कलाई फ्लोटमा राख्ने नन क्रिटिकल वर्क विदिन द एभाइलेबल फ्लोट अनि important component that uses CPM to identify the non-deliverable task and if it contains the float its resources and resources diverted to critical task and अर्को चाहिँ अनि split the work package अनि hire the temporary worker or equipment change the construction method if the cost satisfied अनि earned value analysis used as the monitoring tools to अनि track the project completed against the resources used अनि hold regular stakeholder meeting अनि hold regular stakeholder meeting for catch up plans and use just in time approaches level and extension use the extension of time if the delay is unavoidable and mm, Imagine the consistent concrete gravity dam of 10 megawatt hydropower project. You have the strict limitations. Only one high capacity mobile crane is available on site. The two major activities are scheduled to occur simultaneously. And formwork installations, placing heavy install soldering on the weir wall and penstock pipe positioning and lowering heavy steels pipe segment to into the trenches. And analyze plot. You determine that their wall and activity A on the critical path. Any delay or pushes the entire commissioning date. The penstock trenching was finished early and carry an 10 days afloat. And resources leveling instead of retaining on the second crane and you should say you schedule the crane to work exclusively on the formwork and on the first 5 days rescheduling and in the penstock position is moved on the start of day 6 because this task has 10 days of the float and moving it to the 5 days does not delay the final project completions and You are managing construction and concrete grab dam and त्यसपछि conflict formwork installations on the weir अनि के अरे steel structure steel formwork अनि के अरे अर्को चाहिँ pipe installations अनि be lowering to the trench अनि के अरे formwork installation lies on the critical path pen stocks lies on the 10 days of the float so resources labeling could should be conducted the instead of the result renting a crane अनि के अरे scheduling अनि crane to formwork installations within the first 10 days and first 5 days and then use the crane for the pen stocks on the start of the 6 days as the 10 days left on the float so 5 days does not any delay the project completion and hmm. um, use the load breakdown structure resources breakdown structure resources labeling भनेको चाहिँ shift reschedule the activity to the period when the resources are available resources smoothing भनेको चाहिँ shift the non-critical के अरे active work within the available float shift the non-critical work within the available float without changing the project completion date and use the CPM to identify the non-critical non-delayable tasks and if it contain the float its resources and divert it to the critical path and identify the non-critical and get a non-delayable tasks and if it contain the float its resources should be and get diverted to the critical path and mm, hold the regular stakeholder and get a meeting and get the use just in time approaches any extension of the time and may be negotiated if the any delay are unavoidable and EVA progress and get against the monitoring techniques and get splits the work on it high temporary work or equipment change in the construction method after the cost is offset and during the project progress at a given point of time EVA भनेको चाहिँ measure the techniques अनि to measure the method to measure the project progress at the given point of time and forecast its completion date and get a final cost and applying the variance and schedule and budget as the project progress. During the project performance at a point in time predict the and get a forecasting the completion date and get a, its budget एउटा measuring अनि project performance and measure the project performance and forecasting its completions date अनि अर्को चाहिँ applying variance अनि forecasting its project date applying variance in the schedules and budget as the project progression applying variance in the budget and the schedules as the project progress measure the project performance and determine the and predict the and get a forecasting and measure the project progress and forecasting the and get a project budget and schedules and applying the variance in the schedules and budget as needed and The purpose of the while and compare the amount of the work which has actually been completed to determine compare the actual progress of the work which is targeted and to determine if the cost schedules and the work accomplished are according with the plan and forecast the financials project and the cost and completion time and forecast the financials cost and the budget of the time completion time cost of the time and get support the management decision making to analyze the variance of the cost and schedules analyze the variance of the cost and schedules applying the variance in the schedules and budget as and project progress and analyze the variance of the cost and schedules and as and we compare the three fundamental and control of the project with respect to the time and cost and yes and the BCWS and you and planning schedules and planning variance and plan value and BCWP and you and earned value and ACWP त्यसपछि cost variance, schedule variance यो भनेको चाहिँ BCWP minus ACWP, BCW minus BCWS अनि cost variance schedule variance अनि cost performance index र schedule performance index by divide गर्ने अनि त्यसपछि cost variance percentage अनि BCWP minus ACWP by BCWP BCWP minus BCWP BCWP cost variance percentage cost schedule variance percentage अनि अर्को चाहिँ cost performance index schedule performance index अनि अर्को लास्टमा एस्टिमेट एट कम्प्लिसन्स अनि टोटल प्रोजेक्ट अनि कस्ट बाई सिपिआई अनि सेड्युल्स एट कम्प्लिसन्स अनि एस्टिमेट टु कम्प्लिट भन्यो भने चाहिँ अनि इएससी माइनस एसिडब्लुपी अनि भेरिएन्स एट कम्प्लिसन्स भन्यो भने टोटल प्रोजेक्ट ड्युरेसन्स माइनस इएससी अनि भेरिएन्स एट कम्प्लिसन्स अनि बिसिडब्लुपी अथवा बिसिडब्लुएस भनेको चाहिँ सेड्युल अफ द अनि एक्सपेक्टेड एक्सपेन्डिचर एट गिभन पोइन्ट अफ टाइममा एक्सपेन्डेड डिटरमाइन द एक्सपेक्टेड एक्सपेन्डिचर्स एट गिभन पोइन्ट अफ टाइम अनि estimated value of the work that was planned by completed and yet to be and the estimated value of the work and the estimated value of the work and that has been that was planned to be completed and the estimated and expected estimated value of the work and estimated and BCWS and estimated value of the work expended expenditures at given point of time expected value of the work and expected estimated value of the work that was planned to be completed and is an estimated value of the work and the expected and value of the work, expected value of the BCWS and expected value of the work, estimated value of the work and estimated value of the work that was planned to be completed to a specific date and point of time and get the value of the work and the budgeted amount of the work that has actually been completed, the value of the work and get at a point of time that has actually been completed and it ignores what you actually spent and it looks only the value of the physical progress and the value of the work and get the value of the work that a point of time that has been actually been completed and actual cost of the work done at a point of time and actual and CWP and actual cost of the total cost actually incurred for the work performed during the specific period and actual cost of the work and is estimated value of the work that was planned to be an estimated value of the work that was planned to be and completed and at a given point of time and get the value of the work that has been completed at a point of time this was the actual cost of the work that has been and get performed at a point of time and अब पोजिटिभ ओभर भयो राम्रो आउँथ्यो एस्टिमेट टु कम्प्लिट भनेको चाहिँ एस्टिमेट टु कम्प्लिट भन्यो भने इएससी माइनस एसिडब्लुपी अनि भेरिएन्स एट कम्प्लिसन्स भन्यो भने चाहिँ अनि इएससी टोटल प्रोजेक्ट ड्युरेसन्स माइनस इएससी अनि BCWP minus ACWP, BCWP minus BCWP and cost variance, schedule variance, cost performance index, schedule performance index, estimate at completion, schedule at completions and 25 cubic meter of the concrete has done and get 10 hour of the work at expense of the 25 cubic meter of the and get 25 cubic meter of the concrete has to be done 10 hour and get the 25 cubic meter of the concrete has to be done and get 10 hour at expense of the 5 lakh and get 20 cubic meter of the work has to be done and get in the 10 hours within the cost of an at expense of the 5 lakh. The following information has been regarding and get the perform the EV and comment and result have and get work done for the 6 hours and get 60% of the activity has been completed 3,200 3,25,000 5 घन्टासम्म 6 घन्टासम्म काम गरे 60% of the work has been completed यो भनेको एसिडब्ल्यू बिसिडब्ल्युपी अनि यो 6 घन्टासम्म काम गरेछ अनि चाहिँ अनि have worked on for अनि have worked on अनि has been completed छ अनि as estimated to be completed on as BCWS चाहिँ अनि BCWS 6 मा have worked on for the अनि activity has been complete गरिसकेको छ सो BCWP SCWP already spent अनि mm, actual work and get done by the given point of time and actual any value of the work done at the any given point of time and that has actually been the value of the work which is done at given point of time that has actually been completed actual cost of the work done at a point of time and estimated value of the work that has planned to be completed on a specified date and mm, how the quality is managed and control in the constructions projects and quality is managed and control and what is the role of quality and the goodness of the and degree of the goodness conformance to the any specifications and zero defect and fitness for use quality and the degree of goodness and degree of the goodness fitness for use zero defect अनि डिग्री अफ गुडनेस फिट फर युज अनि के अरे डिग्री अफ द गुडनेस भनिसक्यो क्वालिटिज अनि कन्फर्मेन्स टु द स्पेसिफिकेसन्स कन्फर्मेन्स टु स्पेसिफिकेसन डिग्री अफ द गुडनेस जिरो डिफेक्ट फिटनेस फर युज अनि क्वालिटी इज द टोटालिटी अफ द फिचर एन्ड क्यारेक्टरिस्टिक अफ द प्रोडक्ट एन्ड द फुलफिलमेन्ट अफ द अनि quality and fulfillment of the project requirement and responsibility fulfillment of the project delivery through in delivery and the fulfillment of the project responsibility in the delivery of the service and the product and in such a manner that means that exceed the stated requirement of the project and owner designer professionals and quality and quality management control quality is the fulfillment of the quality achieve भनेको चाहिँ fulfillment of the responsibility in the delivery of the service and the product and in such a manner that meets or exceeds the client expectations and requirement quality management and the quality is the degree of the goodness and degree of the goodness conformance to the specification zero defects and quality management and quality planning, quality inspections, quality control and PISCI and area of EC, OPC, FE, OPC, DPO, need of the PPP and FE, OPC, DP अनि के अरे अर्को चाहिँ क्वालिटी म्यानेजमेन्ट भनेको चाहिँ अनि पिआइएसिआई अनि पिआइएसिआई क्वालिटी म्यानेजमेन्ट पिआइएसिआई अनि प्लानिङ इन्सपेक्सन्स एस्योरेन्स कन्ट्रोल एन्ड द क्वालिटी इम्प्रुभमेन्ट प्लानिङ एस्योरेन्स क्वालिटी प्लानिङ इन्सपेक्सन्स एस्योरेन्स क्वालिटी कन्ट्रोल एन्ड द इम्प्रुभमेन्ट प्लानिङ इन्सपेक्सन्स एस्योरेन्स कन्ट्रोल एन्ड इम्प्रुभमेन्ट प्लानिङ इन्सपेक्सन्स एस्योरेन्स क्वालिटी कन्ट्रोल एन्ड इम्प्रुभमेन्ट प्लानिङ इन्सपेक्सन्स assurance control and improvement planning inspections and assurance control and improvement planning inspections assurance quality and control and planning inspections and planning inspection assurance and planning inspection assurance control and improvement planning inspection assurance control and improvement planning inspections assurance quality control and improvement and FEOBC and financial capability and expertise and the skill exchange and efficiency and the faster implementations. Expertise and efficiency, skill exchange and implementation, efficiency and the faster implementation and optimum cost risk allocations, optimum risk allocations and proven success in hydropower and competitiveness and diversification of the economy. P and private and sector growth. And CPM planning is targeted when dependency establish the and activity durations and determine the network diagram and perform backward and forward paths and identifying the critical path, identify perform backward forward paths and identify the critical path and update the network and monitor and quality and PICA planning and inspections and assurance and control. Um, Quality planning and planning and conducted from the beginning of the project, figuring out how you will measure the quality and prevent the defect and executions during the execution phase. Planning during the execution phase, the service of the product should be sample and measured to determine if the quality is planning during the execution phase, the quality service and the service and product and of the service and product and area of the project should be sample and measured to identify to determine if the quality is within control limit during the execution phase. The product and services and area should be sample and analyzed to determine if the project are within the if to determine if the quality is within the control limit during the execution phase of the project. Service and the product are during the execution phase of the project. During the execution phase of the project, the service and the product are during execution phase of the project. The during execution phase, the product the product and samples and the services are to be measured and determine if the service and the product should be sample and measured if the products are within the qualities within the control limit and should conduct in beginning of the project and figuring out how will if you need control measure the quality and prevent the defect. Quality monitoring and planning and PIC and quality management and PIC and quality inspection and specific examination of the testing and specific examinations, testings, and formal and evaluation exercise and specific examination, testing, and formal evaluation exercise and overall appraisal of the process, product, and services to ascertain if it conform to establish the requirement and involve the measurement, test, and goals of an activity and inspection and examination, testing, and formal and testing value examinations and evaluation of the exercise and overall appraisal of the process and product or services to ascertain if it conforms the established requirement and result compared to the specific and standard criteria regarding and testing and involved measurement, test, and gauge and activity. Inspection measurement, test, and gauge of an activity. Involve measurement, testing, and gauging of an activity. Involved in the activities of measurement, testing, and gauging of an activity. Measurement, testing, and gauging of the activity. Examining, testing, formal evaluation exercise. Examining, testing, and formal evaluation of the exercise and overall appraisal of the process product and overall appraisal of the process product or service to determine if it conforms to the established requirement. Conduct activity of testing and measurement, testing, and gauging of an activity and inspections and non-destructive visual and wave ultrasonic and eddy current radiography magnetic device and uh, inspection should be non-destructive and conduct measurement, analyze, gauging, testing, and gauging of an activity result compared to the specified and requirement criterion. Execution phase as a service and product are to be sample and analyze, measure to determine if the quality is within the control limit and testing and formal evaluation of the exercise and overall appraisal of the process, product, and services, and involve measurement, testing, and gauging of an activity. Inspection is done through the non-destructive and visual and your magnetic particle and radiographic, ultrasonic, eddy current, etc. Quality assurance and quality assurance was a proactive management approach to identify the defect before it could occur and get a proactive management approach. Mm, During execution phase, the service and product are sample and measured to determine if the qualities within control limit inspections. One carry involves the activity of an testing plan, measuring and testing and gauging of the activity result compared to the actually any standard specific requirement any standard and cause the non-destructive test and assurance one because total quality proactive management approaches is used for assurance proactive management approach is used to determine if the to prevent the defect within before they occur include all plan activities to provide confidence and activities design and development assurance was any design development and inspection construction installations and design development installation construction installations and servicing to documents and design development and construction installation quality management and installations and this servicing to document and um, inspections are negative value and quality control and the process is employed to consistently meet the standard and the process is employed to consistently meet the standard and quality and improve the observing actual performance and compare with the standard and take the corrective actions and performance from the if it is and take the corrective set the choose the control subject establish and choose control subject establish the measurement method choose control subject establish the measurement method and identify the setting the performance standard and measure the actual performance and evaluate the compare the actual performance with the standard and take the corrective actions if there is any deviations on the correct standard. Establishing the activities establishing the choose control subject and choose control subject and establish and choose control subject establish the measurement method and choose control subject establish the measurement method and setting performance set performance standard and establish the control method establish the choose the control subject establish the control method and establish the measurement method and establish measurement method and set the performance standard and choose the control subject and establish the control method and measurement method establish measurement method set the control set the performance standard and measure the actual performance compare and take the corrective actions if any choose the control subject choose control subject and design development and construction translations and installation servicing to the document and choose control subject establish the measurement and choose control subject establish the measurement method and choose control subject establish the measurement method choose control subject establish measurement method set the performance standard and quality measurement continuous monitoring enhancing and quality improvement and continuous monitoring use the Pareto analysis ಅಥವಾ cause and diagram effect and of R and C as an flow sheets and flow charts and represent the data structures and data improvement and data represent the and process in sequential order flow charts and flow charts yeah. Flow charts tools and control tools and flow charts and represent the data in sequential order represent the data in sequential order represent data in sequential order represent the data in sequential order, represent the data in sequential order, and get check sheets when you get structured data collections and flowchart and represent the data in sequential order, represent data in sequential order, check sheets and structured data collections, especially histograms and pictorial represents data distributions and pattern analysis, identify the cause and effects and a vital few cause and identify the vital few cause and pattern Pareto analysis and identify the vital few cause 80-20 rule and Flowchart activity sequentials order and check sheets and structured data collections, histogram and picture representation of the structured data and pattern analysis, identify the vital few cause 80-20 rule, cause and effect diagram and determine the find out the main root cause of the problems why the error occur, and find out the main root cause problems why the error occur, mainly due to the material, manpower, machines, tools, money, and a fault tree diagram and fault tree analysis and a failure and analyze the failure process. Fault tree and analysis and you analyze the failure process. Fault tree analyze the failure process. Role of specification describe the requirement of the material, workmanship, and construction works and method of doing work. And describe the requirement of the material, workmanship, construction, and the method of determine the workmanship materials and determine the workmanships, the material workmanship and method of constructions of doing work and construction work, determine the material workmanship and method of work and construction work method of workmanship materials and of the construction work method of doing work. Describe the detailed description of the dimension and describe the material method and of doing work and and any method of doing work and work materials of the construction method. Describe the detail and Q is there. Detailed description of the design and dimensions, quality of the workmanship to be built, installed, or manufactured. To understand the nature of the work and what the work shall be, and to understand the nature of the work and if to determine the quality of the work and material workmanship in the construction and the method of doing work. Determine the dimensions and descriptions, detailed description of dimension, quality of the workmanship to be built, installed, and to understand the nature of the work and what the work shall be, and leaves no ambiguity about the quality expectations and leaves no ambiguity on the quality expectations. The specification of the work describe the quality and the quantity of the material which is required for the construction work, and one of essentials contract document and specification of the work describe the quality and quantity, and specification describe the quality and quantity of the materials required, and quality and quantity of the materials required and, for the construction work, quality and the quantity of the materials required and, of the construction work, and one of the essentials contract document. And, which is one of the essentials contract specification or also specify the detailed descriptions and the nature of the contractor work construction contract document, and essentials component of the contract document which specify the quality and quantity of the works to be achieved in the construction work. And essential part of the contract document as it specify the quality and the quantity of the workmanship to be achieved in the construction work. And all work shall be carried out according to the specification, and contractor is paid for the same, and any change in specifications and change the tender return. The work is carried out according to the specifications provided, and any change in the specifications change the tender return. Work is according to carried out according to the specification, and contractor is paid for the same, and any change in the specification change the tender rate. Tender paper and without any specification of the work is baseless, incomplete, and invalid. Tender papers without any the value and leaves no ambiguity about the quality expectations and specification is necessary to specify the equipment, tools, and plans to be engaged for our work, and enables the procure them before it, and identify the helps to and know, analyze the helps to obtain the necessary information about the specifying, and by specifying the equipment, tools, and the materials, plans to be engaged for the construction work, and helps to procure them beforehand. And essentials contract document and is required for the arbitration, also used for the arbitration and court case, and used for the arbitrations and the court case, also used for the arbitrations and court case, and specific essentials contract document is required for arbitration and court case. And responsibility of the site supervisor, establish the proper site survey and the layout and establish proper site survey and the layout, quality check and get instructions and ensure the best possible quality workmanship on job and check the site inspection survey and the layout, inspect of the assures works as per drawing, ensure that the work are done as per drawing and specification and the instruction of the engineer and according to the instruction of the engineer and prepare the bill of quantity and attend and hold the job site coordinations meeting, attend and hold job site coordinations meeting, recommend the progress payment to the contractor and progress payment to the contractor and recommend the progress payment to the contractor, identify the substandard material defective workmanship and stops or report them immediately, identify the problem with respect to the material and equipment and labor, prepare the job progress report on project periodic quantity survey and the measurement quantity surveying and the measurement quantity surveying and the measurement job, prepare job progress report, prepare site manager and prepare the job progress report, survey and proper site survey and the layout, prepare and establish any timely inspections to ensure the work as per drawing and specifications, establish the and quality workmanship on job and ensure the best possible quality workmanship to be any job and to be employed and assure all job safety workers and prepare the job progress report and prepare the quantity survey and then measurements, prepare quantity survey and the measurements and recommend the progress and get payment to the contractor, recommend the job quantity survey and the measurement, recommend the progress payments to the contractor and periodic survey quantities and survey and the periodic quantity survey and the measurement, recommend the progress payment to the contractor, recommend the period progress program to contractor and the quantity periodic quantity survey and the measurement and as a detail and how you analyze and get quality planning and get quality assurance and get quality inspections and establish standard, define control limit and tolerance and get information gathering the quality management plan and define and get establish the quality standard and define control limit and tolerance and establish the standard, define control limits and tolerance and rinse and inspections and info gathering and info analyze establish the standard and quality planning is execution and during execution phase and the conduct service and product are sample and measures to determine quality is within the control limit and establish standard, define the control limit, establish standard, define the control limit and information gathered and get a quality management plan and establish standard, define control limit, establish standard, define control limit and establish standard, define control limit and establish standard and establish quality planning and establish standard, define control limit and define control limit and tolerance, define control limit and tolerance, information gathering and quality management plan and define quality planning and quality assurance and project management, proactive management approaches, design, development, construction, installation, service to the document and quality planning and foundations of the and stating of the foundations and preventing and defects and quality control and product verifications and product verifications control on any product verifications quality assurance भनेको चाहिँ प्रिभेन्टिङ डिफेक्ट्स अनि establish establish standards and get control define the establish standard and control define the control limit and tolerance establish standard define control limit and tolerance information gathering and quality management plan quality assurance and systematic activities and progress process analysis systematic activities process analysis continuous improvement र external and internal question and quality assurance and systematic and approaches and systematic activities and systematic activities and progress analysis and the establish standard and define the control limit and tolerance and this was the continuous improvement and information gathering and quality management plan and systematic planning activities and progress analysis and continuous improvement and quality and quality planning is a proactive stage where the project quality standard are defined and the project executions begins. And project and quality standard are defined and the project before the executions begin. Project quality standard are defined and project quality was quality planning was and quality planning was a project and quality standard are defined before the project and it begins. Establishing standard construction manager identify the relevant building code specification and the client expectations and the manager and construction manager should identify the quality based on the building relevant code specifications and the consultations and client expectations and this include defining the precise requirement of the material and workmanship through the specifications and establish standardized through the building code and through the building code specifications the client expectations and meetingहरुबाट अनि म्यानेजरले भन्नु and define the control limit and tolerance planning involved determining how quality will be measured and planning involves in determining how the quality will be measured during the executions and planning and control define control limit during the executions phase the service and the product of the same and service and the product are sample and measures and to define identify the to determine whether the product are within the control limit and define the control limit and tolerance and the planning involves determining how the quality will be measured and planning involves and determining how the quality will be measured and establish standard भनेको चाहिँ अनि determine the अनि के अरे setting of the foundations अनि construction manager must identify the through the अनि के अरे quality through the railway building code and specifications and the client expectations अनि define control limit and tolerance involves determining how the quality will be measured execution phase of the process as servicing and the products are the service and the products are to be sample and measures and determine if the quality is within the control limit and त्यसपछि setting and define the tolerance and the limit and the control limit and tolerance त्यसपछि information gathering early scopes budget and the schedule estimates along with the risk analysis manager use the early scopes budget and the schedule estimates along with the risk analysis to identify which products projects areas are required the highest grade of the quality and where the risks might compromise the standard and through the help of budget schedule and the early scopes and through the and the manager use the early scopes and you get a budget and budget and the schedule and get to determine the information to determine the ways identify the project area require the highest grade of the inequality and the determine the project determine which the project area will require the highest and get a risks of the grade quality highest grade quality of the rigs and get and which rigs can compromise the standard and highest quality of the rigs and which rigs can compromise the standard and determine through the early scopes and information gathering through the early scopes and budget and the schedule estimates and risk analysis to define identify whether which project require the highest grade of the quality and whether the risks might compromise the standard and information gathering quality management plans document identify the key stakeholder the responsibility and specific quality metrics and that is concrete comprehensive strength allowable and in the dam etc. Quality management document that the document that identifies the key stakeholder document and it's a document quality management plan is a document which identifies the key stakeholder their responsibility and their specific quality metrics and that is concrete compressive strength allowable and in the domain. That is example and compressive and quality management plan document which describes the client and identify the key stakeholder and the responsibility and the quality management and metrics and specify the quality metrics and identify the key stakeholder, their and career responsibilities, and the specific quality metric information gathering to determine the quality standard on the project and any risks of the highest risks guard quality and the which risks can compromise the standard and through the early scopes and through the early scopes and budget and schedules and define control limit and tolerance and execution space the series of the products are and service and the product data sample and the measure to determine if the quality is within the control limit. However, quality assurance and prevent the defects and standard and systematic activities and quality assurance systematic activities quality assurance and SPC ni standard and performance and systematic activities plan progress analysis systematic activities progress analysis continuous improvement external and internal and quality assurance systematic activities and progress active analysis systematic activities progress analysis systematic activities progress analysis continuous improvement systematic analysis progress activities progress and systematic activities progress analysis systematic activities and systematic activities progress analysis systematic activities progress analysis proactive management approach used and systematic activities progress analysis continuous improvement systematic analysis progress analysis systematic activities progress analysis continuous improvement systematic activities progress analysis continuous improvement systematic analysis continuous improvement of project improvement and get a continuous process run project improvement continue project progress and mm, systematic activities process analysis and systematic activities question and quality assurance involved plan systematic action implemented with the quality systems that is documenting and agreeing on the guidable for the team and quality assurance and proactive management practice focused on non-negative process used to create the final project and process analysis. A construction manager analyze any process capability and use the tools like the cause and effect diagram. Process analysis use the tools like the cause and effect diagram to identify the root cause potential error in the material manpower and use the root cause diagram and use the process analysis analyze the risks associated and through the cause effect diagram to identify the potential risk cause of the error in the man through the material manpower and cost equipment and continuous improvement. Total quality management is used to streamline the construction practice and hold all parties accountable for the final output. Total quality management is used to streamline the construction practice, hold all accountable and external and quality assurance because impart provide the confidence to the client that their needs will be met and internal quality assurance systematic actions to avoid the crisis during the construction. So use the Systematic activities conduct and QA plan and continuous improvement quality and do the work check the against the standard and then act on gap and CPS and cause and effect diagram and process analysis and systematic activities and process analysis and prepare the project quality management plan. Prepare the project quality management plan and which align with the design code and prepare the project quality management plan which align your systematic activities. Prepare the project quality management plan which align with the systematic and design code. Define objective of the quality and assurance at every phase and conduct the quality assurance audit and because it defined and use the tools like the cause and effect diagram to determine the new cause potential error in the that is the CPS through the dam core and cavities in turbine. Continuous improvement and plan and QA activity and do the work check against the standard accepted criteria and act on the gap meeting with the employee to provide the suggestions and internal learning because avoid the crisis during construction daily weekly inspection lab test real time monitoring and impart confidence to the client that their needs will be met and control software share the control software establish the measurement method and uh, choose the control subject establishes the measurement method and set the standard and image performance standard and goals measure and purchasing and umbrella term that include the purchasing procurement and umbrella term which include the purchasing and it is a broader process involving activities before and after the purchasing and it is a subset of the procurement focus, especially on transactional process of it. It is a subset of the purchase and it is a broader term and which include the purchasing and it is a broader process. It is an umbrella term that include the umbrella term which include the purchasing and it is a broader process involving activities. The broader process which involve activities from the before and after the purchasing and it is a broader term which involves the activities from before and after the purchasing and Is a broader process and which involves the activities before and after, before to and after the purchasing. And it is an umbrella term that is used when it is a subset of the procurement focused on specifically and transactional process of the acquiring goods, service, and works. And it involves strategic planning, and it involves it response to the immediate and response to the immediate requirement of the full to fulfill the specific response to the requirement in response to the immediate and requisitions to fulfill the specific need and proactive in nature, reactive in nature. And strategic planning and response to the immediate and requisitions and request or the demand to fulfill the specific need. Proactive and detailed and long-term organizations and involves and strategic process and strategic planning. Focus on the project and get a long-term goal and proactive in nature, reactive in nature. And mm, used for the high value. Focus on the long term goal that contributes to the overall organizational objective and the project success. And focus on the long term goal which contributes to the overall organizational objective and the project success. And focus on long term goals which contributes to the organization's overall organizational objective and the focus on long term goal. Focus on the short term goals that and which satisfy the specific and needs that arrives and due to the immediate need. And proactive nature, reactive nature, focus on the long term goals. So helps to achieve the overall long term objective of the organizations. And focus on the short term goal by responding to the immediate and responses of to fulfill the specific need. Umbrella term which include the package and it is subsets of the procurement and focused on specific legal and transactional process of acquiring goods and focus on value used for the high value of the item contracting. Uh, used for the high value of the item of contracting and get a large amount of the large quantity used for the procurement is used for get a high value of the item for procuring or purchasing and get a large quantity of the goods and or acquiring the large quantity of the good used for the ongoing supply of the daily and get a office supplies and ongoing supply of the things such as any office supplies involves in discrete package with the sealed and involves and get a discrete package with the bead seals अथवा price competitions and involves discrete package with the beat seals and the price competitions involves and standard catalogs direct purchase without uniform bidding and involves sealed and purchasing through the either any competition and bid competition sealed bid and अथवा प्राइस कम्पिटिसन्स अनि स्ट्यान्डर्ड क्याटालग्स अनि के अरे डिरेक्ट पर्चेज विदाउट अनि फर्मल बिड अनि स्ट्यान्डर्ड क्याटालग्स frequently use the standard catalogs and purchase without any formal bid and procurement encompass early activity related to the acquiring goods and services or the business organizations from initial identifications of the needs to the final evaluation of the supply or performance. Specific act of buying begins from the one procurement team has already been selected and build long-term supply partnership focus on transactional efficiency यो त अम्ब्रेला टर्म त्यो भइहाल्यो अनि के अरे प्रोएक्टिभ र रिएक्टिभ नेचर अर्को भइहाल्यो अनि अर्को लङ टर्म र सर्ट टर्म गोल अनि हाई भ्यालु र अनि के अरे यो लार्ज एमाउन्ट अनि र अर्को चाहिँ कुनमा युज गर्छ अनि अनगोइङ सप्लाई सच एज अनि अफिस पर्चेजहरूमा अनि रेगुलर पर्चेजमा युज गर्छ पर्चेजिङ अनि अर्को अनि अफरिङ कसरी गर्छ भन्दाखेरि चाहिँ अनि विथ बिट्स प्याकेज सिल्स अनि बिट सिल्स अथवा के अरे यो कम्पिटेटिभ अनि अर्को चाहिँ स्ट्यान्डर्ड क्याटालग र फर्मल बिडिङ अनि विदाउट फर्मल बिडिङ अनि प्रिन्सिपल अफ द प्रोक्योरमेन्ट एक्टिभिटिज एन्ड WBS project identification survey license and feasibility study and the environmental assessment grid connections PPA financial close generation license financial close digital design and tendering civil work and need of PPP and FEOPC DP and financials and capability and export and the skill exchange and efficiency and the faster implementation optimum risk allocations and proven success in the hydropower project and competitive diversification of economic private sector growth. CPM planning list all activity determine the dependency and determine establish the activity duration draw the network diagram and perform BW and FW path identify the critical path outlet network and monitor and quality management planning implementations and inspections assurance and control and improvement and quality planning was analyzing establish the standard and it define the control limit and tolerance establish and define control limit tolerance and information gathering र quality management plan as establish the systematic activities and assurance by systematic activities and progress analysis and this will process progress analysis and continuous improvement and external and internal quality assurance and PR and PR and right man, right place, right time, 3 hour and right time, efficiency and economy efficiency can order principles of procurement activities steps and 3 hour and economy efficiency, transparency and fairness and no biasness and fairness, efficiency and time भयो efficiency भनेको time economy भनेको चाहिँ cost value of the money अनि fairness त्यसपछि ट्रान्सपेरेन्सी पछि कस्ट इफेक्टिभनेस भइसक्यो अनि हुन्छ त्यो भने अनि इन्टिग्रिटी अनि ट्रान्सपेरेन्सी भनेको इन्फर्मेसन्स इन्टिग्रिटी अनि रिलायबिलिटी अनि ट्रान्सपेरेन्सी भनेको इन्फर्मेसन्स अनि इन्टिग्रिटी अनि त्यसपछि एकाउन्टेबिलिटी कम्पिटिसन्स र अनि 3R अनि इकोनोमी अनि इकोनोमी अनि इफिसियन्सी 3R अनि इकोनोमी इफिसियन्सी त्यसपछि fairness and competitiveness and transparency, integrity and accountability. Then Here, right people, right place, right time ನನಗೆ economy, efficiency, transparency, effectiveness आणि integrity, competitiveness र आणि accountability and principal procurement activities associated steps आणि establish what is to be procured and establish what is to be procured, decide on the procurement, establish what is to be procured steps and prepare the broad scope of the work, estimate the financials and value of the process proposed projects and decide on the procurement activities, establish and set the applicable procurement policy and establish the contract. Request tender offer, evaluate then establish what is to be procured and decide on the procurement activity, establish what is to be procured, decide on the procurement activities and soliciting of the tender work and त्यसपछि evaluate of the tender offer and last के अरे award of the contract, administer and contract and confirm the compliance with requirement, administer contract and confirms the compliance with requirements and Establish what to be procure and activities and establish and establish what to be procure and get a concept obtain permission to start an internal control mechanism obtain any obtain permission to start any you approve establish what to be procure and establish what to be procure establish what to be procure and establish what to procure obtain permissions and for the approval and to start the procurement process obtain permissions for the start and procurement process establish what to be procure and decide on decide on procurement activities and establish what to be procured decide on the procurement activities and approve procurement strategy and this was approve the permissions to start the procurement and approve the procurement strategy, approve obtain the approval for the procurement strategy that are to be adopted and decide on which and procurement activities and establish the establish what to be procure, establish what to be procure and prepare the broad scopes and prepare the financials value and obtain the permissions and decide once establish and set the applicable preferentials procurement policy, establish the contract and get a contract strategy and the pricing strategy, establish the procurement procedures and solicits any request for any tender offer and solicit tender offers and त्यसपछि solicit tender offers मा चाहिँ के अरे यो request for confirm that the budget are in place and the अनि के अरे procurement document are approved before inviting and the procurement and get documents have been approved by the any yeah PPA and get PPM and procurement has been approved by who approved the procurement and get documents have been approved and before and procurement document have been approved by the senior and get procurement document and so then get ensure that the budget are in place soliciting and the tender mass and soliciting tender offers and ensure the procurement are in place and the and get a document have been approved before they are inviting to the contractor and you're inviting contractor and this was the selections on the confirm the short lists and solicit of the tender establish what to be procure and get and decide on the procurement activities and solicit the tender offer and evaluate any tender offers evaluate was evaluate independent and confirm recommendations contain tender evaluations confirm the recommendations and the evaluation is done by the independent review by the evaluation committee or the higher and authority and independent check on independent review of the tender offers through the committee or higher committee or evaluations committee or higher authority. Independent review and the check and confirm recommendation content the evaluations report and confirm independent review and by the evaluation committee or the higher authority and independent and get a check by the an independent check by the review by an independent review and check by an evaluations committee or the higher authority evaluate and tender offer my independent evaluations are checked by the evaluation committee in the independent tender evaluations and get checked by the independent review by the check confirm recommendation content tender evaluations through obtain the permissions and त्यसपछि approve the procurement strategy and confirm award of contract and award contract soliciting of the tender document and and confirm administer the contracts and awarding contract and administer contract and uh, confirm and get is compliance with requirements and administer contract and confirm and administer contract and confirm and confirm the compliance with requirements, and you award the contract and you award the contract, administer the contract and then confirm the compliance with requirements, and administer contract and confirm the compliance with the requirements, administer the contract, evaluate the contract, award the contract, administer the contract and confirm the compliance with the requirements, administer contract and confirm the compliance with the requirement, administer contract and confirm the compliance with the requirements, and administer contract and confirm the compliance with the requirement, and administer contract and confirm the compliance with the requirements, and administer the contract and confirm the compliance with requirement, and administer contract and confirm the compliance with requirement, administer contract and confirm the compliance with requirement, and establish what to be procured, decide on procurement activities, soliciting of the tender and evaluation of the tender, and for an award of the contract, and administer the contract and confirm the compliance with the requirement, administer the contract in accordance with the terms, administer contract in accordance with the terms and conditions, and um, additional in accordance with the contract, in accordance with the terms and conditions, and provision of the contract, and the terms and provision of the contract, administer the contract in according to the terms and any provision of the contract, and ensure the compliance with requirements, and confirm the compliance with the requirements, and administer the contract and any confirm the compliance with the requirement, and capture contract आणि completions or termination, capture the completions आणि data, the termination data आणि completions आणि contract completions or termination data, administer contract and ensure the confirm compliance with the any requirements, and capture and contract and dot completions or capture completion contract completion or termination data, award of the contract must formally accept the tender offer and accept the tender offer and officials notice and sign under the delegated authority, public disclosures of the award for after transparency, formally accept the tender offer and officials notice and sign and under the delegated officials notice and formally accept the tender offer, control point and award the contract and give public disclosures of the award and public disclosures of the award after the transfer and give offering for the transparency official and give officials notice and sign the and provide officials notice, control users officials notice and any internal control point officials notice and sign the under delegated authority, and established to be procured, establish what to be procured, decide on procurement activities, soliciting contract and get tender, evaluating tender offers and awarding of the contract and administer the contract and according to the terms and provision of the contract and ensure the compliance with requirements. Our steps and prepare and steps and what to be procurement and describe the scopes of the work, estimates the financials and value of the proposed projects and financials value of the proposed project, establish the set and procurement policy and establish the contract strategy and the pricing strategy, and establish applicable preferentials procurement policy, establish the contract and pricing strategy, establish the contract and pricing strategy, and establish the procurement procedures, and establish the procurement procedures, and establish what to decide on the procurement activity, establish the pricing strategy and the procurement strategy and contract strategy, and decide on the procurement procedures and establish the procurement procedure and decide on the establish the contract strategy and pricing strategy, decide on the procurement strategy must decide on the procurement activities must decide and establish the procurement and establish the and establish procurement and contract strategy and the pricing strategy, and establish the procurement activities and procedures, procurement and obtain the approval and get obtain approval for the procurement strategy and procurement procedure, establish the procurement procedure, establish the contract strategy and the tender strategy, pricing strategy, and contract strategy, the pricing strategy, and establish the procurement procedures and decide on the procurement activities and soliciting of the tender offer and prepare the procurement document and invite the UI and receive the tender offer of the UI, evaluate UI and soliciting of tender offer and get confirm the budget are in place and procurement and get documents should be approved and get before inviting the contractor and confirm the shortlist and prepare the contract document and has established the procurement procedures, establish the contract and strategy and the pricing strategy, obtain the approval for the procurement strategy. Prepare the scopes and estimates the financials, procedures, value of the proposed project and uh, establish the contract pricing strategy and the pricing strategy, establish the procurement procedure, decide and prepare the procurement and document and invite the contract to submit the tender offer and invite the contractor to submit the tender offer and UI and analyze the UI, receive the tender offer, UI, evaluate the UI, prepare evaluations report on shortlisting process, invite the tender offer from the shortlist and evaluate of the tender offer and open and record the tender offer received and determine whether or not the tender offer are complete, determine whether or not the tender offer are complete and complete and reliable responsible. Mhm. Evaluate the tender submissions, perform the risk analysis, tender prepare tender evaluation report and open and record the tender offer if confirm the recommendation contained in the tender evaluation report approval by the independent and independent review by the evaluation committee अथवा department and higher authority. Open and record the tender offer. Open and record the tender offer received and determine whether and open and record the tender offer received, determine whether or not the tender offer and determine and decide and open and record the tender offer issued and offer responsible and tender offer complete evaluate the tender and evaluation and prepare the risk and evaluate the tender submission, determine whether tender or not determine whether or not the tender and determine whether or not the tender documents are the complete or responsive tender offers are complete or responsive, perform the risk analysis, evaluate the tender offers and submissions and confirm recommendation contain tender evaluation report and independent review by the of this first year award to the contract, notify the successful tender and successful tender for the outcome, compile and contract document, capture the contract award data and formally accept the tender offer and accept the control of and capture the contract on completion or termination data and official notice sign under the delegated authority, official notice and sign under the delegated public disclosure for the award of transparency, public disclosure of the award and getting the final formally accept the tender offer, accept the tender offer, formally accept tender offer and get disclosure, public disclosure of the award for the transparency and official notice and sign under the delegated authority. Administer contract and administer contract and confirm the compliance with the requirements. Or administer contract, confirm compliance with the record the capture the contract terminations data and completion data. Establish the procurement procedures and get establish what to be procured and determine decide on the procurement activities, soliciting of the tender offer, evaluate the tender offer, award the contract and administer contract and any compliance, confirm the compliance with the requirement and formally accept the tender offer and confirm the submission recommendation contain the tender evaluation, confirm the recommendation in the tender evaluation report, confirm recommendation tender evaluation report and formally accept the tender offer and officials notice and sign the under delegated authority. Different process that you follow during the process. The process to following cash flow is not key process to plan procurement and conduct procurement and administer procurement and plan procurement and conduct procurement and administer procurement and What are the procurement activity steps and the internal control mechanisms for the public sector? Yes, and different processes for the procurement products and plan procurement, conduct procurement, administers procedures. Plan procurement, conduct procurement, administer procedure. Plan procurement, conduct procurement, administer procedure. Plan procurement. The different process followed in the procurement process. Different follow and process to be followed in the procurement process. Plan procurement, conduct procurement, administer procedure. Administer are the control procedures. And plan procurement and plan procurement and PA. Control procurement, conduct procurement. Plan procurement, conduct procurement, control administer procedures. And plan procurement, conduct procurement, administer procedures. And plan procurement, conduct procurement, administer procedures. Plan procurement and execution critical phase as the project managers and understand the project needs and establishments and procurement strategy before any tender is issued and established. Include all the specification, material and service such as minimum quality. Decide and determine what will be done by our organizations, what must be procured externally. Determine what must be done as the procurement manager and analyze the project needs and objectives to be and for the procurement strategy before any tender is issued, and then determine the project needs and the establishment of the procurement strategy before any tender is issued, and determine the procurement strategy, determine the procurement, decide on the procurement activities and plan procurement, decide on the project and get objectives, and then is prepare the procurement strategy before any tender is any prepare, include any strategy include any analysis of the specifications and the materials and services to be used and with the minimum and quality requirement and specifications and quality and the services to be used and materials and the services to be used and determining of the specifications and the material and service to be used, and determine what will be done by our project and what must be procured, what will be done by our organizations or projects, and what must be procured externally. Determine and deciding what will be done by our project and what will be purchased, what should be purchased externally. Determine objective of the project and then prepare the procurement strategy before any tender is issued. Include all the specification of the materials and that as a minimum quality requirement. Make versus by this, and there is this will determine what will be procured by our organizations, what must be procured externally for Hyderabad civil work like and civil work and for Hyderabad civil work sounds and specialized equipment hydromechanical sound because the manufacturer is specialized and manufacturer can still cement purchase and bulk direct purchase bulk in. What is to be external and procured externally, what will be done by our organization. Mm, it involves analyzing any kind of contract requirement for outside purchase and pre-qualification and the bid list preparations require the delivery dates and It involves analyzing contract requirement for outside purchase and which should be a contract requirement, which should be external purchase externally. Pre-qualification and bid list preparations require the delivery date, and it involves any planning, also involves any construction requirement and what should be purchased externally, and bid preparations and pre-qualifications and bid list preparations requirement of the delivery dates, and requirement of the delivery date, bid list preparations what should be purchased externally, and okay, contract documents requirements from the outside purchase and what should be procured externally, and get a pre-qualification and bid list preparations require delivery date, and request for proposals and get a milestones to be achieved, and milestones to be included, long-term conditions, long-term and condition, legal terms and conditions. Find supplier of the and get a material and services. You find the supplier of the materials or service units, and get a decide on the fixed price contract or the cost reimbursed, and get decide on whether should be used in a fixed price contract or cost reimbursed, and request for proposals and key milestones to be included, and this was the contract legal terms and conditions, and find the supplier with any of the material or service units. Find the supplier of the materials or service to be needed, and analyze and planning analyze ganiki, and then what should be external procured externally, and this was the list of the bid evaluations and short list pre-qualifications or bid list, and are was a require the delivery dates, and what any are milestones to be achieved, and included decide on fixed decide on the tender should either purchase through the anigiri cost fixed price अथवा cost reimbursed price and contract. Cost reimbursables are the fixed price contract, and you find the supplier for the delivering of the material or services as you need, any request for proposals and legal terms and conditions. Also determine how change will be handled once the contract is awarded. Also decide on how change will be decide how change will be handled once the contract is awarded. Also decide on how change will be handled if the once contract is awarded. त्यो भनेको प्लानिङ प्रोक्योरमेन्ट अनि त्यसपछि कन्डक्ट प्रोक्योरमेन्ट अनि प्लान प्रोक्योरमेन्ट कन्डक्ट प्रोक्योरमेन्ट अनि एडमिनिस्टर प्रोक्योरमेन्ट त्यो एडमिनिस्टर अनि कन्ट्र्याक्ट एडमिनिस्टर प्रोसिडियर्स एडमिनिस्टर कन्ट्र्याक्ट एन्ड अनि कम्पाइल्स अनि कम्प्लायन्स विथ अनि कन्फर्म द कम्प्लायन्स विथ द रिक्वायरमेन्ट एडमिनिस्टर प्रोसिडियर्स अवार्ड कन्ट्र्याक्ट compute the contract and get data completions or terminations, and formally accept the tender offer. Officials notice and sign under the delegated authority, and give a public disclosures of the award for the transparency. अब conduct procurement was an execution phase of the critical phase where the project needs an establishment of the procurement strategy are conducted before any started tender, and get started include specifications and material and services. Determine what the project will be, our organizations are determine what must procure externally, analyzing and contract requirement of the outside and purchase, and required delivery date, and key milestones to be used, and key terms and conditions, and legal terms and conditions. Decide on how, and get decide on the fixed price or the cost reimbursable price. We decide on the fixed price or the cost reimbursable price. Find the supplier material and RFP refer, and also you determine how change will be handled once the contract is awarded, and also decide how change will be handled once the contract is awarded, and conduct procurement execution phase अनि of the conduct अनि के अरे प्रोक्योरमेन्टमा चाहिँ soliciting any solicitations of the tender, any awarding of the tender, evaluation of the tender and awarding of the tender, solicitations of the tender and evaluating of the tender and awarding of the tender, and contract solicitation of the tender offer, evaluating of the tender offer and award of the contract, and solicitations of the tender, evaluation of the tender, and prepare procurement document, invite the contract and receive the contract and evaluate the UI and prepare the evaluations report on shortlisting process, invite the tender offer for the shortlister from the shortlist, and open end and get a record the tender offer is to determine whether or not the tender offer are completed, and determine whether tender are completed and get responsible and complete, and in terms of the technical or financial aspects as an under the evaluate the tender submissions, perform the risk analysis, prepare tender document evaluations and report. Just conduct procurement executions phase of the project procurement, which include the any solicitations of the tender and evaluation of the tender and any awarding of the contract, and conduct when the RFP are released, bids are evaluated, and the seals selections are made, and conduct procurement is any used when the RFP are released, any bids are any gathered, and the evaluations selections are made. And the conduct procurement is any conducted when the RFP are released, bids are gathered, and the tender and the selections are made when the RFP are released and bids are gathered and the selections are made and it is conducted when the bids are gathered and selections are made and bids released bids are RFP are released, bids are gathered and the selections are made. The conduct analysis and conducted and conduct procurement is conducted when the RFP are released and bids are selected and the bids are RFP are released when the conducted when the RFP are released, bids are gathered and the selections are made. Conducted when the RFP are released, bids are gathered and selections are made. And RFP are released, bids are gathered and selections are made. RFP are released, bids are gathered and selections are made. RFP are released, bids are gathered and selections are made. RFP are released, bids are gathered and selections are made. RFP are released, bids are gathered and selections are made. RFP are released, bids are gathered and selections are made. And it includes the actual receipt of the payment of and payment of the goods and services, and it also includes to any solicitation of tender offer for hydropower, and it must be transparent and competitive and legal non solicitations and 30 days or 45 days and minimum and अर्को चाहिँ bid and receipt and evaluations government agency hold the public opening and for the good government opening and agency hold the public and government agency hold the public bid opening and for the good and works को लागि technical र financial aspect 2030 अनि goods and services को लागि QCBS analysis अनि goods and services को लागि technical र financial धेरै हेर्छ त्यहाँ सर्भिसको लागि टेक्निकल हेर्छ अथवा QCBS मेथड इज युज अनि गभर्मेन्ट हेल्ड द अनि रिसिप्ट एन्ड इभ्यालुएसन अनि पब्लिक एन्ड बिड एन्ड ओपनिङ अनि government agency hold the public bid opening and government agency hold the public bid opening and hydropower must be transparent and the competitive and conducted and your conduct procurement is conducted when the bid RFP are released and bids are gathered and the selections are made and execution phase of the procurement and often the execution phase is the critical phase and but this was the award of the contract issues the letter of the intent 7 days and lesser letter of the acceptance for the 15 days and for the consulting and following process of the letter and registrations with negotiations with the highest and ranked firm a letter of intent and letter of intent or letter of acceptance सात्र अनि यो awarding of the contract अनि त्यति नै अनि त्यसपछि administer or the control procedures even though the project manager does not conduct any administer control process and procedures and even though अनि manager does not conduct and procurement he is still responsible for ensuring it is conducted appropriately. If something is late you need to know how it impact the rest of your project schedules and mitigate it properly. If the conflict between the department and require and it will be project manager responsibility to resolve on the ongoing management of the contract after the award to ensure the delivery quality and the compliance conduct the quality check and standard of the goods and service deliver although the site inspections factory acceptance test and soft drawing review and ensure the contractor or the supplier maintain performance bond bid security and insurance require and manage the variations and change order and evaluate the economic order quantity and get to determine the optimum order size and which minimize the total inventory costs and mm, Administrators are and control procedure. Even though the project manager does not involve in the construction, conduct the procurement, he is still responsible for ensuring in the project manager is not does not conduct the procurement, he is still responsible for ensuring it. Even though the project manager is not possibly responsible for the conducting procurement, he is responsible for ensuring it is conducted. Even though the project manager is not responsible for conducting the procurement, he is responsible for the ensuring it is conducted safely. It is, if the something is late, you need to something is late, you need to know that it impact our project. And even though it's not involved in the procurement and conduct procurement is responsible for and ensuring the procurement is conducted safely and project manager. If the conflict within the department and occur, and it will be the project manager responsible to review the ongoing management and of the contract reward to ensure the delivery conduct and conduct safety and quality checks and standard of the goods and service to be delivered, conduct the quality standard and safe and even the resolve the disputes and ensure the contract or the supplier maintain the performance and ensure the contract manager and supplier and contract and ensure the contractor or the supplier and ensure the contractor or supplier maintain the performance bond and contractor or supplier maintain the contractor maintain the supply and carry performance bond, wind security insurance as required, manage the variation change in order and provide the liquidity damage and mobilizations and we manage in the mobilizations amount and fix the mobilizations amount and liquidity damage and I calculate the EOQ to determine the optimum order size to minimize the total inventory and calculate the EOQ to optimize the inventory size, optimum order size which minimize the total inventory costs and plan procurement, conduct procurement and administers procurement procedures. And even though the president does not involve in the procurement and he is still essential for ordering and for ensuring if the procurement is conducted safely or not, and if something is late and you need to know that impact and if conflict also managed and conduct quality serving tests and quality check standards of the goods and services to be delivered and ensure the contractor or supplier maintain performance bond and bid security, manage the variations and change in order and calculate the EOQ to determine the optimum order size to be delivered without with minimizing the total inventory costs and decide on the liquidity damage and the mobilization amount. And inventory is a store amount and resources and that is used to satisfy the current or future needs and store and inventory and stored and inventory is the stored and inventory is the stored and resources that is used to satisfy the current or the future needs and in the stocks and or the goods of stores and in the constructions. It includes the raw materials and the purchase parts and the works progress and the finished good inventories and in the construction, it includes the raw materials and purchase parts, finished good inventories and a work in progress. It includes the raw materials and purchase parts and a work in progress of finished good inventories. And it is the resources and which is stored and that is used to satisfy the current or the future need. And it's the stocks are good of the stores and it in construction. It is raw material and purchase and material in use and progress in use or progress of finished good inventories. Inventory management is the process of developing and administering the policy systems and procedures to minimize the total costs related to the inventory decisions while supporting the functions and management process of developing and administering the policy systems and the procedures to minimize the total cost and process of developing and administering the policy systems and the procedure. Inventory management is the process of developing and administering the inventory management is the process of developing and administering the procedures and inventory management inventory on the process and process of developing and administering the policy systems and the inventory management is the process of developing and administering the process of developing and administering the procedures and policy rules and systems and procedures to minimize the total cost. And inventory management is the process of developing and administering and process of developing the and administering the policy, process of developing the administering process of developing administering and Process of developing and managing the policy systems and the procedures to minimize the total cost, administering the policy systems and procedures, administering policy and the process of developing and administering the policy procedures and any systems and that minimize the total inventory cost related to the inventory decisions while supporting functions such as purchase product and aspect of inventory and inventory management is the any process of an inventory management is a decision and the administering policy develop the process of developing and administering the policy procedures and the rules and systems and the policy systems and the procedures which minimize the total cost related to the inventory which minimize the total cost related to the inventory decision and is the process of developing and administering the policy systems and it is the process and is the process of developing and administering is the process of developing and administering the policy rules and systems and the procedures to minimize the total cost related to the inventory decision. It is a process of overseeing and controlling and supply levels and to ensure the controlling and it is the process of controlling and ensuring and overseeing the it's the process of over and inventory management inventory and management is the process of controlling and supervising and give the supply to controlling and supervising of the supplies to and ensure the right products are available at right time अथवा deciding developing and administering the policy systems and the procedures to minimize the total cost related to the any inventory any decisions any total cost related to minimize the it is the process of deciding and it is the process of deciding and any deciding and administering managing and uh, this is the process of deciding and administering the policy and decision systems and the procedures to minimize the total cost related to the any other process of overseeing and supervising and controlling the supply levels and inventory levels and to ensure the right inventory of resources are available to the right time and supervising and controlling the supply levels to ensure the right products are available at right time and the process of overseeing and controlling the अनि के अरे inventory level and inventory of supply level to ensure the right any products are available at right time अथवा decide developing and administering the policy rules and the systems and the procedures to minimize the total cost related to the inventory decisions and while and supporting the functions such as purchasing productions and scheduling and the project needs and stored resources that can be used and satisfy the current or future need and in construction include raw material purchased and parts and work in progress finished good products and inventories and aspect of the inventory management controlling and monitoring purchase from the supply as well as customers and controlling and monitoring of the any purchase and controlling and monitoring of the purchase from the supplier as well as the customers controlling and overseeing and supervisor monitoring controlling and monitoring of the suppliers and the procedure purchase and controlling and monitoring of the purchase the supply level from the supplier as well as the customers maintaining storage of the stocks controlling and get amount of the product for sales and controlling the amount of the product for sales, maintaining the storage for stocks and maintaining storage aspect, maintaining storage for the stocks, controlling the amount of the product for sales and controlling amount of the product for sales and maintaining the carry storage of the stocks and maintaining storage of the stocks, controlling the amount of the controlling amount of the maintaining the storage of the stocks, controlling the amount of the product for sales and controlling the amount of the product for sales, maintaining the amount of the product, maintaining the storage of the stocks, controlling the amount of the product for sales and maintaining the storage of the product and storage of the stocks, controlling the amount of the product for sales and controlling and monitoring the purchase from the supplier as well as the customers and EOQ refers to the EOQ approach is used to order the quantity in a single purchase such that any accumulated cost of the order the quantity अथवा goods in the single purchase EOQ or order the quantity in the single purchase such that the cost of carrying and the holding is minimum in other words the quality and quantity that they order at one time the purchasing and inventory level अथवा quantity in a single purchase Nielsen's EOQ अथवा EOQ model and in other words quantity that is order at the amount of the quantity which is order at one time so that it will minimize the total cost of the placing order which will minimize the total cost of the placing order and storing receiving the good cost of which is placing order cost of placing minimize the total cost of the placing order and minimize receiving the goods minimize the total cost of the placing order and receiving the goods and the cost of the storing of the goods as well as the interest of the capital need and as well as the interest of the capital invested and cost of the storing as well of the goods cost of storing of the goods purchasing of the cost and total cost of the placing order receiving of the goods total cost of the place minimize the total cost of the placing order receiving the goods and total cost of the placing order receiving the good cost of the storing of the goods as well as any interest as the capital and as well as any increase in the interest of the capital invested and assumptions no limit on the order costs no limit on the order size lead time is any constant lead time is constant, no no limit on the order costs, and the cost of the placing of the order is independent of this. The cost of placing of the order is independent of the size of the order. Lead time is constant, no control on the no limit on the order size. The cost of the placing of an order is independent. The cost of placing of an order is independent of the storing size and cost of holding a unit of the stocks depend upon the does not depend upon the quantity in stock. And cost of holding does not depend on the quantity in the stocks. Cost of holding a unit of the stocks. Cost of holding a unit on the stocks does not depend on the quantity in the stock. And holding cost and holding the burden the quantity by any order quantity annual cost holding cost or carrying cost and holding cost or order cost holding or carrying on every EOQ and total cost curve optimum order quantity and optimum order quantity and total costs and you holding cost you and order costs and you give any total or any number of the quantities that they order any single purchase that accumulated cost and of the ordering and the carrying cost are at minimum level and Wilson EOQ otherwise EOQ simply EOQ model no limit any of the ordering no limit on the order size, and demand is uniform. Demand is uniform, constant and continuous over time. Demand is uniform and constant and demand is uniform, constant and continuous over time. Demand is constant, uniform, no ordering and no limit on order size. Demand is any constant, uniform and continuous over time. Demand is constant, uniform and continuous over time. No order lead time is constant, no limit on order size and no limit on order size. Demand is any no lead time is constant. Cost of placing an order is independent of the order size and cost of placing of an order is independent of the order size. Cost of placing of an order is independent of the order size. Cost of holding of the unit of the stocks does not depend upon the quantity of the stocks. अनि योक्यु भनेको रुट ओभर टु डिएस बाई एच। एस भनेको चाहिँ कस्ट पर अर्डर, अनि त्यसपछि कस्ट पर अर्डर इन डलर, अनि नम्बर अफ द युनिट होल्डिङ कस्ट अनि आई इन्टु सी भनेको चाहिँ होल्डिङ कस्ट इन पर्सेन्टेज अथवा पर्चेसिङ प्राइस, अनि कस्ट पर युनिट्स पर्चेसिङ प्राइस र होल्डिङ कस्ट इन पर्सेन्टेज, अनि होल्डिङ कस्ट इन पर्सेन्टेज अनि र कस्ट पर युनिट्स अनि एच भनेको चाहिँ अनि डी भनेको चाहिँ डिमान्ड भयो, एनुअल डिमान्ड इन युनिट्स। योक्यु भनेको चाहिँ अर्डर क्वान्टिटी इन युनिट्स, अनि एनुअल डिमान्ड्स अनि होल्डिङ कस्ट पर युनिट पर इयर, होल्डिङ कस्ट पर युनिट पर इयर, अनि कस्ट पर युनिट र होल्डिङ कस्ट अनि पर्सेन्टेज, अनि होल्डिङ कस्ट पर युनिट पर इयर, अनि अर्डर अनि कस्ट पर युनिट, अनि अर्डर कस्ट पर युनिट, अनि होल्डिङ अनि डिमान्ड, एनुअल डिमान्ड पर इयर अनि पर इयर। And importance of the EOQ and reduce the delay and interruptions due to the understocking, and minimize the total inventory costs, and preventing the overstocking and understocking through the just-in-time approaches, and provide a specific basis and scientific basis of deciding how much order to and how much to order, and provide scientific method of understanding and deciding, provide scientific method of deciding how much order and when to order, and